My name is Alicia Alexander, and I attended Distinction College as a practical nursing student. I will be graduating July 25th, 2025 as a valedictorian. My story is one from victim to victor. From the ashes, I rise to grace.
At just 14, your life shifted in a way no child should ever experience. What do you remember most about that turning point?
What I remember most is like flickers, because that is something that you want to erase from your memory, but you can't. But what I remember mostly is that dress with the big old buttons that I was given to put on, not knowing at this hour where, what, and it was dark. So it took some time before I come to my senses as to what is happening. Then the other thing that I remember is reaching to this dark place with just what I consider a lamplight. And then I realized that, oh my God, I'm somewhere else. You know, daylight, and I don't know where I am. It's not somewhere where I can just walk home. Scared, don't know what to do. You know, I decided that I'm gonna hide. But as you all know, I can't hide because my age was changed. I was 14, they told everybody that I was 18. There were times when to get away from everything, I would climb the tree and stay up there, don't come down. And the day when I was taken out was the happiest day of my life. But it was short-lived because that happened because of pressure from somebody else within my family circle wanting to know where I was.
So, how did it happen? Walk us through that day. What were you doing before? How did it lead to you being trafficked?
All right, this is hard. All right, so growing up as a child, you know, humble beginnings, you know, my parents went to live somewhere, you know, capture land per se, and we grew up there, and as persons keep coming in to live within that area, she met people after people after people. Most of them were males. About, I think I was 11 thereabouts, she had asked me one day to ask somebody for $40 for crackers. I will never forget. But my dad, he works. Why would you need 40? I was that child that questioned everything, so I was seen as defiant. It don't make sense, I want to open my mouth. So I decided that I'm not going. And she get upset and said, let's go. So I went. But my heart told me that everything was wrong. But I went because she wanna, you know, kill me. So when I went, the person said I must enter. But I'm like, I'm not going in there. But then I remember that if I don't go in there, it's gonna be problems. So I decided to go in. When I entered the house, there was this big naked man lying down. And I took a 360-degree turn and I ran. He tried to run after me, but I jumped over the fence and I get away. When I went back, she was furious. Where is the $40? And I was trembling, afraid, like, you know, she wouldn't have nothing, you know. She sought me out properly, but I didn't went back. I chose death over going back. I was smart enough to know that I'm not supposed to be in there. All right, that happened. I used to go to church regularly as a child. I used to go to church on Sunday night, and all of a sudden she don't want me to go to church in the night. She want me to stay home. She want me to do everything else. I didn't know what it was. I remember one night I saw some clothes to press, and I was like, whose clothes are these? You know, and it never crossed my mind. I just know that I need to press the clothes. And my brothers, they left and they went, boys, really, they left. So I was basically home alone. So I hear the door opening. So I was like, my mother's at church, my father went up the road, my brothers aren't here, then who could this be? So I kept quiet trying to see. When I look, it was the same person that I was sent to come in through the door. Now, my senses was like, why are you here, why are you here? And he insisted on being there, and I was like, no. And I run back into their room, he followed me. And he told me this clearly, if you don't do what I want, your mother, I'm gonna beat you and deal with your mother. And I was like, what? And he was saying, and I was like, no, I'm not doing this. And I stood there like numb. I couldn't talk, I couldn't move, I couldn't do anything. I becomes a brick. I don't know how fast time passes, but I just know it's like I went from here to somewhere else mentally. It's like I can't even tell you what happened in between. That I went, my mother came home and the first thing that she asked was, oh, did you press the clothes for so and so? And did you get the clothes? And I couldn't even answer. I could not. It's like I was just walking dead. And I cried. So I think the next best thing now, I need to tell my father that something is happening to me. This is happening to me. So I think my father would have listened because of who he is. Well, that did not work. The moment I mentioned my mother, he went off. His wife won't do this, and his wife won't do that, and his wife, and his wife, and his wife. So it was like somebody just drop you in a hole and close it. And you're screaming from your lungs and nobody's hearing your voice. I had to endure that for quite some time. I reached high school with that. I started Mona High School with all that. And the thing is, many never know this. And it was so bad because it's like nobody I tried to say something to would listen to me because I was painted as the problem. I was seen as the problem, the defiant one, I'm the one that want to disappear. I'm the one that just want to pull a curtain. I'm the one just want to just die. You understand? And it plays out in everything. It plays out in school, where function was not 100% because I was just ignorant. I was always have to be in defense mode, To even get that person to leave me alone, I had to one night hide a knife and this is it, I have enough. So after that I was broken off, she gets somebody else. But how they do this time, they let it look like I am in some form of association. No child wants to be associated with anything of that sort. So from problems from school to my father not listening, chaos brewing from inside the house, everything just happened. And that night just came up where, only God knows, as I said, it's part of my life that I chose not to remember. Mm-hmm. Because even when I was taken there, I remember one day I was sent to an old time I call Timbuktu. So imagine you don't know where you are and somebody send you miles and miles in a bush to give somebody food. You're running scared. You don't know what to do. You're trying to survive because that's the only thing you can think. If you comply, you live. If you comply, you'll eat. If you don't comply, you don't eat. So you need to just, okay, if this is what it is, it's what it is. And then it works out that I was taken back from there, but it didn't end. I became a teen mother at 15.
You got pregnant at 15?
At 15. And that was hard because nobody wants a child at 15. You're a child, you don't know how the world works. You know, and for me, because of what I know it's attached to, I didn't want it. So I said, you know what, cheaper me dead. You know, I tried to pull off everything. Even when my head water break, I tell nobody. I kept it a secret until it was too late. Because I didn't want this. I don't want it. And whatever it takes for me not to have it, I will do it.
So what was it like carrying a child and the trauma all at once?
It was like somebody put it into a washing machine and just press spin.
What was your reaction like when you found out that you were pregnant?
When I found out, it felt like every last breath or hope I have just died. It felt like I am now trapped.
Who knew about it?
My mother knew. It felt like I was trapped in a web, and there is no way out of this web. This is like an attachment, and I don't want it. I don't want it. It makes no sense I even tried to talk to my father because I hear none. I hear nothing. Everything comes from my mouth is always wrong. So I went into, a bad spot, had surgery to have my son, and I didn't want him. I refused him at the hospital, I didn't want him. It was one of those times when you're like, I want to go to school, I don't want this. I'll do anything not to be here. But before it gets better, it gets worse. By this, I had to live with somebody that I don't want to live with. As a young girl living with people, you're gonna be treated like trash. You're gonna face things that nobody in their right mind can process. And then you need to survive all of that. You need to find a way through that because society is gonna say this is what you want, this is what you do. And this is how it works, and I always see it as unfair. Person look at the child, oh, this is what she wants. How do you know that's what the child wanted? How are you so sure?
So were other people around you outside of your parents and your siblings? You had siblings?
Yeah, I have siblings.
Were other people aware of what was going
Everybody
on?
was aware. Things like these don't happen and people don't know. They just mind their own business. They just mind their own business and look the other way. This is how it works. But then I had to plan to escape.
What was that plan?
That plan was I had to leave my son at the time and go, and I left him and I went away. But then I wanted to see the child. I came back, and that's when I was beaten beyond memory.
You left him with your parents?
No, I left the child with his father and the family. And that's when I was beaten without senses. I didn't remember anything. I fight until there was nothing left. When I do come to my senses, I figured out that I was raped. So I was like, I gotta get out of here. So I leave. I went where my father was, and I found out I was pregnant. No, pregnant with a child in my father's house, that not gonna work. So I had to leave and go right back into the property. When I went back, that's when you put it as hell on earth. I wasn't given anything to eat. I barely got things to eat. I remember one day he took my son and he carried the bones for me to eat.
Need a minute?
I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
The one day I was given something that I consider sensible to eat, I remember I started as the colors. You know, I might never have any other training or anything. I know I'm not supposed to be seeing light. And then I realized something is wrong. You know, I was scared to wake him up at night and said, look, something is wrong with me. And decided to take me to the hospital. When I went to Victoria Jubilee, I know something was wrong. I don't know, I know, but I know I was in trouble. It was just that feeling where you know that this is it, you know, and I had to be there pressing the nurses to say, something is wrong with me, something is wrong. When one didn't listen, I go to the other and I said, please help me, something is wrong. And she got frustrated and she said, okay, go into the bathroom. So when I went into the bathroom, that's when everything happens. And she started screaming for the other nurse and everything was becoming easy. And I remember like they're trying to put me on a bed. And by this, I can tell there are doctors coming. And they were trying to get information, but it was getting cloudier by the minute. And the next thing, nothing. Nothing. The next thing I know, I am looking, and this is, many persons this happened to them. You might have heard it before. Next thing I remember is seeing doctor pumping my chest in OR. And I was like, I'm outside of my body, right? I'm outside here. And I can see what was happening. I saw they go with the baby. I followed them with the baby. And it was so real because I was up watching everything. I have an out-of-body experience right there. And I just walk away. And I found myself into this place. It's like the prettiest place I ever see. And I was just there. And I saw a man, I didn't see his face, and he said to me, go home. It's not your time, go home. When I'm to wake up, I could know that my body was dead. And I couldn't understand it. And I was just fighting because everything was pitch white. And I was fighting. It's when my pinky finger moved. And I saw a little white thing like come towards me, and I was a nurse. And by this, the white thing moved, so I was like, I couldn't tell where I was. And there more white things popping up. They were just popping up all over the place. Turns out they were doctors. And I could tell there was light, and I hear this echoing, say, do it or whatever, and I did. When I come back to, I was on ear and lung machine. My blood was basically outside. There was this machine, had my blood doing whatever it is outside. There was more strings on me than I could ever imagine. And it was so surreal that, oh my God, I am in intensive care. And it was my doctor at the time that came into the room to tell me what had happened. And he said, you know, it happened so fast. We couldn't do a surgery to help. And it reached a point where a hemorrhage and I bled out. It reached a point where they didn't have, you know, enough to say put her on life support. And he said to them that she's too young to die. Just try. And they were like, the blood leave her brain for too long. And he prayed for me, and he said to me, whatever in this world that you're to achieve, go for it. Because in all my years of being a surgeon, I have never seen anyone come back from this. But life was not done with me.
You mentioned death being your only option, especially when you were experienced during the first part of your journey. How did you feel having waking up from this experience, realizing that, oh, I made it?
It was one of those, it was a mixed emotion because it's like you get a ticket to escape, and then you come back to the drama. It's like, you know, I would take the escape any day than take this, because now I gotta wake up to all this nonsense again. But in everything, God has a plan for you. But it did not end there, because now I would need to plan my escape, my ultimate escape. Because then I'm gonna go home with a baby, I'm gonna go back to the whole chaos. But then I need to plan my way out. I need to escape.
What was it like raising your children in an environment like this?
That's where many would never understand, and you would not understand until you walk that flames. It was hard to really. I have 4 children. I'm not saying I love my first 2 children less than I love the last 2. But anything comes from trauma, I have a problem with bonding. You know what you're supposed to do, but that deep bond, something just keeps stopping you in the middle. So as I mentioned, when I made my escape, there wasn't a second thought about them any at all. It was getting out, and you weren't coming. Because I can't feed you, I can't house you, I did not want you. Why do I need to take up all this? So when I made my plan, I had to be the best person, the best behaving person, the best compliant person. Nothing in return. Nobody can pick up. When I planned my escape before, I remember one night I was told not to go somewhere, and I did. And, I was knocked out. It was somebody that shaped the life back into me. So when I was planning, I just don't do nothing. I just told the mother that I'm going to Ligani, I get to work. And I just walk out. So everybody was expecting me to return from Ligani because I didn't leave to leave. But I leave to leave.
I know that must have been a tough decision to make, but did you have any regrets leaving the children behind?
Well, eventually, I do have regrets, but again, I don't, because then I didn't have anything. I can't feed them. There's nothing I could have done to make any of their lives easier. Maybe things would have happened to them. I can't get anything to eat. I can't put you nowhere comfortable to sleep. I respond for you any way you take it. I can't just scrape you up and put you down somewhere and set sleep.
Weren't you scared that the same thing would have happened to them, especially your daughter?
Yes, I was scared. Eventually, it starts to sink in my head like, oh boy. The thing they talk about cycles, and I give God thanks that did not happen.
Mm-hmm. It didn't happen?
It did not. She didn't have a child in school, and yeah, it didn't.
How is your relationship with them now?
For my son, is there now when it comes to relationship-wise. I tried along the way when I get the chance to. And for the daughter, it was resentment times 100 because they fed her with everything negative and she absorbs it. So I become the big wolf in the room, and I'm like, oh boy. I fight to get her attention. I fight to see her, to let her know my intentions. I fight to let her know she cares, and then eventually I had to just let go.
What helped you claw your way out of that moment? What was that point in time for you where you realized, yes, I'm free?
Freedom did not come easy for me. You're going to say jump out of frying pan and drop in a fire. It never come for me in that sense. It didn't, because what happened when I run to my father. And my father at the time wasn't receptive of me saying certain things, and by then, my father's house would be my rescue refuge. Going there was another moment. Resentment was still there, ridicule was still there. There are times I don't know how to function. I just don't know how to function. I don't know how to do anything, because you'll be just judged mercilessly. Somebody can just come and say, she do this. Oh yeah, she do it because I would never do it. They want to say so. I have family that didn't like nothing to do with me. And a thing that I had to get over in this life, when certain things happen, I always say it's because my mother hates me, why this keep happening to me. And I had to cross that bridge. My last 2 children, I see them as my saving grace. They are the ones that instill drive. They are the ones that shift my atmosphere. They are the ones that equip me with fighting power that I never knew before.
When you escaped, right? You told them you're going to Ligoni and coming back, and you didn't go back, and you say you went to your dad. What did you do? What kind of work did you do on yourself personally to get to this point right here, right now?
Nothing. I was in zombie mode. It's one of those periods of my life. It's like you're going in zigzag because you're dealing with trauma. You're dealing with everything. You're trying to process. You're trying to face reality. You can't. You know, everything that you do is response to trauma. Everything you do, you're breathing, it is like you're not functioning. And the reason why I said my last 2 children were my rescue. They were the ultimate shift. Because hadn't they come into my life in the position that they came, for me to say, look, this can't work, you know, I got to get up. But again, it didn't get easier either, because then I had the battle of my family to fight. You know, I'm not perfect, but the things that was done to me shouldn't have. My last 2 children, they have their fair share of battles with illness.
What kind of illness?
For the first one, born premature. And at that time, you know, you have to put your house in order. Because your bills is coming, you don't really have much. You can't just stand there. This is somebody that needs you. You need to put it together by any means necessary. It has to work. So that's when I started to pull myself together. When my second child came, also, it came with issues. So from one to the other. And then again, with these 2 children, the third one, his father left while I was pregnant. The other one, his father left while I was pregnant as well. See problem? So there is no way I can sit down and play house. You know, these children need me. You know, I have left 2 children behind. There's no way I can leave these other 2 behind. So I need to put my life together. So that's when I started to try every little thing. If I hear about one little function with one little workshop, I go. If I find out I can get one little certificate course, I go. And I try to build. And then, you know, persons would normally meet me and said, why don't you go to school? You know, I saw you do that and it's amazing. And I'm like, But, you know, I didn't push as hard. When I started to really take my life 100% serious is when I got sick shortly after my son was born. And I found myself sick, 2 children, one father not dead, one father barely business. That's when I know I have to fight with everything I have.
Is that what inspired you to become a nurse?
Yes, and also the experience of my last child being ill as well. You know, when you see persons take time out to draw a chair, to talk to you, to tell you that it's okay, to, you know, to assist you on a bedpan, to assist you to the bathroom, to assist you to urinate, you know, to just tell you that it's okay. You know, you're like, okay, how can I give back to the world for what it has given me? And that's when I started to say, okay, how can I do this? But then everything tends to have red tape and red flag. So I just try to do what I can do along the way. So I work on construction site with tiling, and then I leave that. I work in the hospital as a porter. I leave that alone. I work as a seamstress. I leave that alone. And then I did a certificate course in cashiering. I leave that. I went to Heart and I did community tourism level 1, housekeeping level 2. And then from there, I got a job shortly thereafter to work as a sales rep. And then I leave that and I get a job to work as an accounting clerk and, you know, the invention, payroll. And I was like,
You did a lot.
How?
A lot of different things.
so then it started dawn on me that I'm able to remember things. I'm able to do things that not even me I understand how. So then I started to put everything together. But my son was ill, and then I was let go from my job, and it was like, oh boy. So I said to myself, if and when I get him better, I will start school. So as soon as he had his surgery done, that's when I started to seek out school.
What kind of surgery?
So he had a tonsillectomy removed from here, so that because his asthma was bad because he has a rhinitis with the asthma, so it was terrible. And that's when I started to seek out school. I found Distinction College. The truth is I didn't know what this journey would bring. All I know, I have a determination to learn something. I was clueless. I was 1,000% clueless. My first day in class, I was like, oh boy. You know, I was laughing to myself like, this is fun. Because, you know, in a sense, you're like, did I bite off more than I can chew? But then I started to, you know, like the class. The classmates were great. And, you know, I started to take it one step. I started to ask questions with persons that might know more than me. And from there, so everything just comes in like a rapid flow. And then I started to grasp. You know, with CSEC, when I hear that, you know, I need to learn 5 years of work in 7 months, I was like, oh boy, you know, how am I going to do that? And the challenges came because I lost my job as soon as I started here. Great. But then my church stepped in. And there's no word to tell them how much I appreciate their assistance. You know, because it's a risk to invest in someone, especially someone without a base to say this is their education background. And I have surprised myself because I remember when my phones keep shutting down and I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? I can't afford the CSEC book. And everything was just going crazy. There were days when I can't eat because if I eat, my children can't eat. But I keep going. I had to like take a picture of my classmate book to study for CSEC. I had to use YouTube. You know, when I need to get a device, I ask around and around and around and around and around, and it's like forever nobody's answering. My church sister answered a call, get me a second-hand device, and then someone get me a phone that barely works. I put two together to create one, and that was my first thing to get my assignments out and to study. And it was like I was behind the assignment. I'd be telling the teacher that soon that when nothing was working. And everything falls in place. But before everything fall in place, you know, I was able to work as a practical nurse before completion. And that's something I give thanks for, especially to my teacher, you know, for, you know, instilling knowledge, and I was able to grasp it to a level where I could get a job. And the shock of all this, you know, when everything couldn't get any crazier, my house gave way like 4 days before sitting CSEC. I remember it was breaking, I could see it, but I think, you know, I'll have enough time. There was no such thing. You know, I remember in the house, it was early morning singing, and then I hear the explosion. And my bed was going into the hole, and I was like, not to them, I jump up into the room, I have an injury. And I run to get my children out. And when we reach outside, I'm like, and I look and see what I came out of. I don't know what hole the roof was. All support for that roof went. I was like, what is this? I called the pastor and I called somebody else in the morning to say, well, it's no more. I'm like, okay, I have nowhere to live. I know where my children. What am I going to do? I have exams soon. What is not this? And I'm like, okay. They were able to get somewhere for me the same night. I thank God for that. And I went, it was paper 2 exam. And I went into that exam shaking. I could barely write because I keep hearing everything that was breaking. I could hear it. And I sit there and I'm like, God, help me. Please block it out, just help me. Because I couldn't function, I couldn't continue. So help me. Every time I was like, help me. And I held on and I held. And I'm like, okay. I finished the exams about some minutes before it done. Time up. And I went out. I go back and I did paper 1, paper 3. I didn't think anything of it. I think I started to plan where I might need to do about this exam because my mind got knocked out before, And I'm like, let's see what happens. So when I got the call that the results were out, my curiosity was one, but I was scared to see. I've never done a CSEC exam before. I never sat a major exam before. I don't have nothing to say. I attended high school. Same as my wanna see moment. So I like, okay, when I saw the grade 1, it's like somebody just stopped the world. And I was like, so I got up and I ran to my boss and I said, can you come look at this for me? And so I said, come and look at this for me. I said, what do you see on the thing? Because I could not believe. And she said, it's a 1. And I was like, and I started crying, I felt on this crying like God did it because, how it was one of those moments. And for me, I was like, oh, with everything stacked against me, I pulled it off. And, I'm like, okay, to get to work, the school gonna have a thing called a transcript. So I don't want to have a bad one. So I'm gonna work to get a good one. So, I put my study in more and more and more and do what I can do. Then my foot act up, can barely walk, come down here, can barely go home, thank God to my classmates, And I press because I want a good transcript. I wasn't expecting anything else to come after that because I just want the transcript. I just want when I go somewhere and get my job and they ask the school for that, it's something worth looking at. And then all this happened. So I'm just here giving God thanks, from what should have taken me out more than once. My life was like a roller coaster. The best thing that I have done for myself was give my life over to God because
if I was about to say, despite all that you've been through, you carried God through it all.
I carried Him because without Him I would not be sitting here. My faith anchored me. There were days when, even I faced persecution from my family. I had to learn forgiveness. My children faced persecution from my family. I had to be now teaching them forgiveness, how to navigate that. Because as a child, you're going to hold on to certain things, because I don't know if they sit down now and think about what they had done and the implications, and what could have happened and why, and there are things that we can't fix, but to know that somebody could have cost their life because they have an ego to do something. With my children, it's a different defense, because when you've been through the fire, you're going to do everything to not let that fire touch your children. Everything. And, you look back, the hate that you have faced, the ridicule that I've faced, the words that say you're not mounting to anything good. And, those were my stepping stones.